At any moment, you can come back to the window and test additional organs if you need any more information from this patient. The organs that we have already tested today will be seen with the image of the heart. The organs that we did not test would see with the heart and the question mark. As you see, every group, for your convenience, has a marking of a different color. Also, we can see a list of organs by systems, so every system will be subdivided into a folder. Another interface possibility that we have to see them just as we did as the list of organs. Additionally, we can also see the graphic display of organs. In this case, it will be easier for you in the first steps. These to the left are the complaints that a patient has. We can refer to them at any moment. When we would test the patient at a different day, then there would be an additional subfolder with the date of the testing and the complaints from that date. If we need to come back and edit the anamnesis, let's say if the patient remembers another complaint, then we go to the top left interactive anamnesis button and we come back to the red dots. This is, again, we remind you, the button for running diagnostics. As soon as we selected the organs we want to test, we started. All the other buttons here are mostly used for bioresonance treatment, for bioresonance therapy. We will mention it a little later. Now we can close this window, and this is a main card file window. Here is the list of the patients, and here is the list of the organs that we tested and that we treated or selected medicines for. We will now walk you through the standard procedure of how we analyze the data that we received. First, we select Express Monitoring, that refers to the whole body, and we press the Analysis of Survey Results button. Here are different groups that we go through and that will give us information about the patient's health. First, we start with group 01. We check it, and here we will identify the weakest systems of the patient's body. The weakest will be the ones with the lowest number. This number is called the coefficient. We will identify the systems that are weakest in the body. That means these systems will be a priority in helping the patient. At this stage, let's mention some theory. Every part of the brain is responsible for a certain organ. Every part of the brain responsible for a certain organ produces an electromagnetic wave of a certain frequency. That frequency can be analyzed and recorded. During many laboratory tests, we identified and recorded lots of organs in different stages, as that stage can also be identified by the change in the frequency. That is why we now come to the concept of coefficients. A coefficient is how close an organ is to its most pathological stage. So if there are any active or acute negative processes going on. This analysis window has to be explained a little bit further. First of all, there are all the different groups that have different information about organs, stages, diseases, microbes, and everything else that we will discuss in detail a bit later during this training. Here is the name of the system of the group that we are currently viewing. In this case, it is Express Monitoring, as it refers to the whole body. The golden section of homotoxicology and virtual homeostasis, these two numbers are needed only for the software itself. We do not use it as users. These are just some system recordings. In this case, the first group is multivariative analysis of system homeostasis. It will help us to identify the weakest systems in the body. the organs of the body, according to their wavelengths, were grouped into certain filters. Therefore, what we see here in this window is the 2nd, 7th, 6th and 13th filters. The second filter, we can find about what it is in more detail. We know it is skeleton adaptation. Adaptation in this case means that there is some inflammation going on. We can find out the details by pressing the D, description button. So this is some more detailed description about this recording, about this slice. So we expect some problems of inflammatory character in locomotive systems of the human body. That means this is for now the weakest system of the body, some inflammation going on in the skeleton system. In this way, we can also check descriptions for other systems, for other filters. 7th filter refers to reproductive system. Our current patient is male. That means it indicates some problems in urogenital system, most probably referring to prostata gland or nephritis or adnexitis. Filter 6 refers to digestion system, mostly small intestine, but also including duodenum and pancreas. Filter 13 refers to mind and brain, so nervous decompensation. It also should be noted that you see here two stages, adaptation and decompensation. Adaptation refers to inflammation. Decompensation refers to degeneration. As you see in the right side is the actual graph recording. There are two lines, the blue and the red. If the lines would not intersect and be parallel to each other, that would indicate the best stage of the organ. As you see, the lines do intersect, and that refers to inflammation and degeneration going on in this system, in this slice. So our first step is to identify the weak systems. They would have the lowest coefficient in group 0,1. To put them into medical conclusion, we simply press the In Conclusion button. We will now write down the 4 systems that have the lowest coefficient. Usually we check coefficients up to 0.5. We can seek the conclusion at any moment by pressing the eyeglasses, the View Conclusion button. Here in the System Disorders part, we see the weak systems that we recorded. Let us manually write down that these are weak systems. To save changes, we press the green Accept Changes button. The second and third parts of medical conclusion will be ettalon processes and recommended activities. After we have identified the weak systems, we go to group 3, which shows us the expressed state value of organs. Here we will see if our patient has any target organ. A target organ is not always the weakest organ in the whole body, but it is the organ that will deteriorate the fastest. In this case, we also check coefficients up to 0.5. As all the coefficients here are higher than 0.5, that means from here we record nothing. The next thing we can check is group 5 and 6. We usually check them together. These groups will show us if there are any diagnoses that we can expect in a patient. In this case, we also check coefficients of up to 0.5. In this case, we see some indications of thymolysis, but nothing more active than that. It should be noted that we are now only having an overview, as we are now in express monitoring and seeing the whole body. We will only record diseases when we come to the organ itself. After we have checked 5 and 6, it is also a good idea to check group 15, microbial biocenosis, so microbial activity. In this case, we also check the coefficients. We are especially interested in the ones being below 0.5 and actually below 0.3, which would signify active and alive microorganisms. If the coefficient would be around 0.4, that most probably indicates that there are no live microorganisms, but only toxins of those microorganisms. After we have checked group 15, we can check group 20, pathological process stage. Here we are also interested in having a low coefficient below 0.5, and if we would have such a coefficient, then the filter would indicate which system, grouped by frequency, is having a pathological problem. Basically, where are the changes gone so far that already it is a chronic disease. Also, the details can be found by pressing the description button. For instance, if here the coefficient would be below 0.5, it would indicate that filter 6, in this case small intestine, duodenum and or pancreas, would have the rotavirus gastroenteritis, stage 4. What does stage 4 refer to? In this case, at the very below of group 20, there is group description. By pressing the D button, we can also find out more details about this group and about the stages that I mentioned. Stage 1, 2 and 3 refer to functional disturbances in the system. Stage 4 would show a structured or organic at the system level change. 5 would indicate change at the level of the organ, and 6 would indicate the highest stage, that means changes at the level of tissue and cells. After we checked group 20, we have now only written down into conclusion the weak systems. In order to help a patient, we would mostly concentrate on these systems, even if the complaints and diagnoses that originally brought the patient to us indicate other problems, because the weak systems are usually the ones that most negatively affect the whole body. After checking express monitoring, we would continue to the second phase. The second phase is checking the systems, the 6 systems that we tested. We start with skeleton, bones and joints. We go to the data analysis, and here we follow a similar procedure, but a bit different. We go to group 1. As we mentioned, all the organs were grouped according to their frequency into the filters. In this case, the skeleton, bones and joints belongs to the second filter. If we see this second filter on the first position having the lowest coefficient, that means that the problem in this system lies in the system itself, so it is an original problem, not a secondary one. If another system would be on top with a lower coefficient, that would mean that the problem in the bones are secondary and are mostly caused by the negative influence of another system. In this case, we write nothing down, we just memorize for ourselves that the problems in the bones are originated in the bones themselves. Let us now check groups 5 and 6 to see if we see any presumptive diagnosis or possible complications. As you see, all the coefficients here are quite high. All are higher than 0.5. That means there is no active disease that we can identify at the moment. We now go to group 15, microbial biocenosis. Let's see if there are any active microbes in the bones themselves. But as you see, the coefficient, the lowest coefficient here is 0.789, and we would be interested in a coefficient of 0.5 or lower. That means that there are no active microorganisms in the bones. At this stage, we can say that the bones indeed have a problem, and the problem originates in the system itself, but we have identified no disease and no microorganisms. most probably there is some problem with the bones or the discs themselves, so more a physiological problem. Let us continue to the next system. Next system are the chest organs. The chest organs include lungs and heart. We press the analysis button. We go to group 1. Here, heart and lungs belong to different filters. The filter more having a lower coefficient would be the one primarily influencing the system. In this case, on the first position, it is filter 7. Filter 7 refers to reproductive system. We see that there is some inflammation in the reproductive system which is causing the problems. Still, the coefficient even of this problem is quite high, so we can say that there is not much problem. But still, you see the problem in the chest organs, even if there was one, a deep one, is not caused by the chest organs themselves. Actually, you see that in this case, the heart itself is here, the heart and vessels. Everything which is higher is a bit contributing to the problem. Let us see now groups 5 and 6 if we can expect any diagnosis in the heart and lungs, in the chest organs. Again, high coefficients. All the coefficients are higher than 0.5. Let us check for microbial biogenesis, microbial infections. Again, high coefficients, so most probably no live microorganisms are negatively influencing this system. We close it, and we come to organs of extraperitoneal cellular tissue. The main important organs here are the kidneys. We go to group 01, and we see that the main problem, the main system that is causing problems is filter 7. That means urine genital adaptation. So actually there is some inflammation going on in the urinary genital system. The kidneys themselves belong to the 9th filter. Here they are. So all the systems, all the filters that we see on top of them add to the problem. So there is some problem with detoxification, most probably liver, some problems with degeneration of the neuroendocrine system, again some nervous system inflammation, some problems with the digestive system, and some nervous decompensation. So we see that the problems of the extraperitoneal cellular tissue organs are not original, they are secondary. Now let's check groups 5 and 6 for presumptive diagnosis and possible complications. Again, we see no active diagnosis as we are searching for a coefficient of below 0.5. Let us check for microorganisms. Again, no active ones as all the coefficients are quite higher than 0.5. We go to the next system. The next system is male pelvic cavity organs from the right side. We check the first group to see where the problem is coming from. We see that the main problem, the main cause, lies in the 7th filter. Again, urine genital system, and there is inflammation going on there. This is our system, though that means that the problem originates in this very system, so we would most probably have to concentrate upon it. We'll go to groups 5 and 6 to check for presumptive diagnosis and possible complications to see what is causing the problem. But at the moment, we see no diagnosis as all the diseases have a coefficient of higher than 0.5. We go to group 15 to check for microbial biogenesis, but again we see no alive microorganisms. We go to the next system, that is the head in vertical cross-section. We see that the main negative factor influencing the head in vertical cross-section is the skeleton, the inflammation in the bones and joints. Then the urinary genital inflammation, and then the digestive system. Basically, if we want to help the head and the associated organs, we have to start with reducing inflammation in the skeleton, in the urogenital system, and also helping digestion. We also see that there is some nervous decompensation that is adding to the problem, and also some small indication of a detoxification system problem. We go to groups 5 and 6 to see if there are any diagnoses referring to this system, but there are none as the coefficients are high. We go to group 15 to check if there are any microbes in this system, as this system also involves part of the respiratory organs. But we see no microbial activity. We next go to the abdomen in cross-section. Here again the main problem that we see that is attributing to the difficulties in abdomen and cross-section organs is the skeleton inflammation. Most probably it indicates that the skeleton itself, basically innervation of the inner organs, is somehow damaged. The next cause that we see with the low coefficient is the urogenital inflammation, and also some problems with the digestion. So these are the issues that contribute to the problems in the abdomen. We go to 5 and 6. We see if there are any diseases that already are active and can be identified, but at the moment there are no active diseases in this area. Next we go to group 15 to check if there are any active microbes, active microorganisms in the abdomen in cross-section organs, but at the moment there are none. At this point we have looked through all the 6 systems that we have. We have seen skeleton, bones and joints. We have seen chest organs, lungs and heart. We have seen organs of extraperitoneal cellular tissue, including kidneys. We have seen the male pelvic cavity organs from the right side. We have seen the head in vertical cross-section. And we have seen the abdomen in cross-section. So first we check the express monitoring, the whole body, to identify weak systems and possibly target organs, and then we have a look through all the systems to find out what are we really searching for. Again, the system automatically checks the wave frequency recorded by the device and decodes them automatically. And when it happens, it makes an automatic correlation with the recorded information, giving us a so-called coefficient. The lower the coefficient, the more match there is. So the more problems, the more toxins, the more microbes, depending on the group, there are.